The Secret Life of Pets is the latest in the animated talking animals films. It's made by Illumination Studios, who brought us the Despicable Me franchise as well as the Minions movie. So The Secret Life of Pets is about this dog named Max, who has this loving owner who lives in New York City. And one day the owner decides to bring home a new dog named Duke. Now they do not get along right away, and so they end up in this crazy situation, end up getting lost in New York. Not necessarily Home Alone style, but they get lost in New York. And then now all the other animals, now they have to basically figure out their way home. All the other animals that are in their building have to figure out a way to find them and bring them back as well. Also, in the meantime, while they're out traveling in New York and trying to get back home, they encounter this abandoned animal sort of underground gang led by this little white rabbit named Snowball. Now I was really excited when I first saw the trailer for The Secret Life of Pets. It looked like a pretty new concept. It's sort of something we haven't really seen before. And we all sort of wonder, what do our pets do when we're not at home? And this thought would look like it was going to explore that. But what I was also sort of concerned about is that, like most movies, that they showed us the majority of the film in the trailer. Luckily, this wasn't the case. The trailers of this film basically take place in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. After that, it's all new content, which I think was something very refreshing, because usually they show a lot more of the story in the trailers than they should, but luckily this wasn't the case for this movie. The good of this film definitely comes from the animation. Illumination Studios has gotten much better with their style of animation. New York City was very colorful, was very vibrant. The pets were very well animated. Their fur was very well animated, but they still very kept with the Illumination style, with like the eyes of the animals as well as the human characters. That's very much Illumination style. They didn't go overly realistic or do anything like that, but they kept with their style, which I think was a good thing for them. That's very much recognizable as their brand. The voice acting in this film was also fairly good. I liked that Max, who was voiced by Louis C.K., I think he did a great job. Duke, which was voiced by Eric Stonestreet, who was on Modern Family, I think that was a bit miscast. I didn't really like that, especially early in the film, because they made him sort of seem like he was like a dog with an attitude, and it just didn't play that well for me. When he gets softer later in the film, I think it was a much better choice. But when he sort of plays this like tougher dog in the beginning, it just didn't play very well for me. But the rest of the cast did a fairly good job. But I have to say there was one major standout, one big standout, or in this case a small standout, because Snowball, who was voiced by Kevin Hart, was absolutely the funniest character in this movie. Now, I know a lot of people aren't really a big fan of Kevin Hart, especially when he does the same sort of shtick all the time, which he was able to avoid the majority of in Central Intelligence. But in this film, I think he did perfect. He had the best lines, in my opinion, some of the funniest little sayings, some of the funniest little things he would do. He made a key out of a carrot. Like, there were just little things that he kept doing. There was this one animal he kept referencing to that had died that I think was super hilarious. I think that was the best performance of the entire movie, and I think they could have just made a movie based around Snowball and the whole abandoned pets underground gang sort of thing. I think that would have been a super interesting movie, and I kind of hope that's where they'll go in the future, maybe a future spin-off movie, but we'll see. The negatives of this film, I think, revolve mainly around the story elements. And Illumination Studios did something very interesting with their story elements, in which they followed a formula. Not just any formula, but the Disney formula. There was an animated short involving the Minions before the film. There was a tease for the studio's next film on the back of a bus during the film. Also, there was a small cameo from one of the characters in the beginning sort of intro film that made an appearance later in the film, and also the story. Now, when I say the story, I mean because there are a lot of parallels between The Secret Life of Pets and Toy Story. These creatures, or in the case of Toy Story, objects, have a secret society that humans don't know about. There's a struggle between old and new. There's a quest to get back home. Minor characters worry about the missing characters and go and look for them. There's a chase after a truck, and there's some other parallels that I don't quite want to get into because I don't want to ruin the story for you. But although there were a ton of parallels between The Secret Life of Pets and Toy Story, I felt there was enough differences that I could distinguish the two from one another and still enjoy The Secret Life of Pets. The grade I'm going to give The Secret Life of Pets is a C. I felt like the film was very much a success. I think Illumination Studios did a lot of things right, but I can't ignore the amount of parallels, how they more or less copied the Disney formula with certain aspects teasing a future movie, recalling a character that was in the beginning intro film. There were just a lot of parallels not only to that aspect but also to Toy Story that I feel couldn't be ignored. I also felt this film was very good in its own right, but I don't quite think it'll stand up to like the Despicable Me franchise or have the great commercial success that the Minions have. If you've seen The Secret Life of Pets, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below, or let me know what your favorite animal adaptation, whether animated or live action, is down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos, and we'll see you in the next one.